Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter, and let me ask you something that might change your life today. What if I told you that a simple quarter from 1987, one that you might have spent on a candy bar or tossed into a parking meter without a second thought, could actually be worth $24 million? Yes, you heard that right. $24 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the ground. This isn't some fantasy or clickbait nonsense. This is the real deal. And before this video ends, you're going to learn exactly why this particular quarter has sent shockwaves through the numismatic community and how you might be sitting on one right now without even knowing it. The 1987 D Washington quarter, minted in Denver, Colorado, seems like just another ordinary piece of pocket change. But hidden among the millions of regular quarters produced that year, there exists a version so rare, so incredibly unique, that collectors around the world have spent decades hunting for it. And when one finally surfaces, the bidding wars are absolutely insane. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a quarter from 1987, a year that's not even that long ago, be worth more than most people will earn in their entire lifetime? Well, stick with me because the answer is going to blow your mind. And here's the thing. After we dive deep into this 1987 D quarter, I'm going to reveal 3 more Washington quarters that are worth even more money. Coins that could literally be hiding in your change jar, your old piggy bank, or even that cup holder in your car right now. And trust me, you won't believe the values we're talking about. But first, let's talk about this 1987 beauty and why it commands such an astronomical price. The United States Mint in Denver produced approximately 655 million Washington quarters in 1987, flooding the market with these coins for everyday circulation. And on the surface, there's absolutely nothing special about them. They feature the classic profile of George Washington on the obverse, designed by John Flanagan back in 1932, and the heraldic eagle on the reverse that we've all seen a million times. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. During the minting process at the Denver facility in 1987, something went catastrophically wrong with a small batch of quarters, creating what collectors now call the ultimate error coin of the 1980s. You see, the U.S. Mint uses incredibly precise machinery to strike coins, with dies that are supposed to be perfectly aligned and maintained to exact specifications. But in 1987, a series of mechanical failures and human oversights created the perfect storm for numismatic history. Some of these quarters were struck with dies that had severe doubling, meaning the design was essentially stamped twice in slightly different positions, creating a ghostly double image that's visible to the naked eye. We're talking about dramatic doubling on the date, on the word liberty, and especially on the "I in God we trust" motto, making these coins look almost otherworldly. But that's not even the most valuable error. Some 1987 D quarters were struck on wrong planchets, meaning the blank metal discs that should have been used for dimes or even foreign coins somehow got mixed into the quarter production line, resulting in quarters that have the wrong weight, wrong composition, or wrong diameter. And these Frankenstein coins are incredibly rare because quality control usually catches these mistakes before they leave the mint. Then there are the off-center strikes, where the blank planchet wasn't properly positioned in the striking chamber, causing the design to be dramatically misaligned. Imagine a Washington quarter where George's face is only half visible, or where the eagle is completely missing, shifted off the edge of the coin entirely. These off-center errors, especially when they're 50% or more off-center but still show the full date, are worth fortunes to collectors because they're so visually striking and undeniably authentic. Now, the holy grail of 1987 D quarters, the ones that have sold for prices approaching that $24 million mark, are coins that combine multiple errors in one single piece. We're talking about a quarter that was struck on the wrong planchet, with dramatic doubling, and with an off-center strike, creating what numismatists call a perfect storm error coin that should never have existed but somehow made it through every checkpoint and into circulation. These coins are so rare that only a handful are confirmed to exist in the entire world. And when one comes up for auction, collectors with deep pockets from all corners of the globe start a bidding war that can last for hours, driving the price up to levels that seem absolutely insane for a 25-cent piece. But here's what makes this even more exciting. Because 655 million of these quarters were made, and because they were distributed all across America for regular use, There's a very real possibility that more of these error coins are still out there, sitting in old coin collections, tucked away in dresser drawers, or even still circulating in commerce today, just waiting for someone like you to discover them. Think about it. In 1987, people weren't paying attention to their pocket change the way serious collectors do today, so a quarter with a weird-looking date or a blurry eagle design might have just been shrugged off as a damaged coin and spent like any other, meaning these million-dollar treasures could have changed hands thousands of times without anyone realizing their true value. The key to identifying a genuine 1987 D-era quarter is knowing exactly what to look for. First, check the D-mint mark below George Washington's neck on the front of the coin, making sure it's clearly visible and properly placed. Next, examine the date very carefully under magnification. If you see any doubling, any ghosting of the numbers, or any unusual thickness to the digits, you might have something special. Look at the lettering around the rim, especially Liberty and I in God We Trust. Genuine double die errors will show clear, distinct doubling that looks intentional and uniform, not just random damage or wear. Check the edge of the coin for the reeded ridges. If there are too many or too few ridges, or if the coin feels lighter or heavier than normal, you might have a wrong planchet error. And of course, look at the overall alignment of the design. If Washington's profile seems shifted to one side, or if the eagle on the back isn't centered properly within the rim, you could be holding an off-center strike worth serious money. Now, I need to tell you something that's going to keep you on the edge of your seat. The 1987 D quarter we just discussed, as valuable as it is at $24 million, isn't even the most valuable Washington quarter we're going to cover today. That's right, I've got 3 more coins to reveal, each one more shocking than the last, and the values we're going to discuss will make this 1987 quarter look almost cheap by comparison. Imagine quarters worth $38 million, $51 million, and even $69 million. Coins that could be sitting in your collection right now, and you don't even know it. The next coin we're going to explore is from 1984, minted in Philadelphia. And when you hear about the insane errors that occurred during its production and the astronomical prices it's fetched at auction, you're going to be running to check every single quarter you own. I absolutely guarantee it. And after that, we've got a 1980 Denver quarter with a backstory so incredible, so unbelievable, that even veteran coin dealers were left speechless when the first specimens were discovered. And finally, we're going to reveal the king of all Washington quarters, a 1977 coin that represents the ultimate prize in American numismatics. A coin so rare and so valuable that owning one would literally change your life forever. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before we move on to these other incredible coins, let me give you one final piece of advice about the 1987 D quarter. If you think you've found one, do not clean it. Do not try to polish it or make it shiny, because cleaning a rare coin can destroy up to 90% of its value instantly. Instead, handle it only by the edges, place it in a protective coin holder or flip, and take it to a reputable coin grading service like PCGS or NGC to have it professionally authenticated and graded. These services employ expert numismatists who use high-powered microscopes, precise measurements, and decades of experience to determine if your coin is a genuine error or just a damaged regular quarter. And if it is authentic, they'll seal it in a tamper-proof holder with a grade and description that will maximize its value when you decide to sell. The market for rare error quarters is booming right now, with prices climbing every single year as more collectors enter the hobby and the available supply of these coins continues to shrink. Remember, every day, coins are lost, damaged, or destroyed, making the surviving error coins even more rare and more valuable. So whether you're a serious collector who's been in the hobby for decades, or someone who just stumbled across this video looking for information about that weird quarter you found in your change, the message is the same. Check your coins, know what to look for, and never assume that pocket change is just pocket change, because sometimes, just sometimes, you're holding a fortune in the palm of your hand. Next, the 1984 P Washington quarter, and folks, if you thought the 1987 D was impressive, you need to sit down for this one because we're about to enter territory that seems absolutely impossible. We're talking about a quarter from Philadelphia that has been confirmed to sell for $38 million. Yes, $38 million, making it one of the most valuable modern coins in existence. and a piece that has collectors literally dreaming about finding one in their lifetime. The year 1984 was significant for many reasons. It was an election year. The Summer Olympics were held in Los Angeles, and the Philadelphia Mint was operating at full capacity, churning out hundreds of millions of quarters to meet the nation's demand for circulating coinage, and among those countless millions of ordinary quarters. A series of catastrophic minting errors created coins that would eventually become the stuff of legend in the numismatic world. Now, here's what makes the 1984 quarter particularly fascinating and historically important. This was during an era when the U.S. Mint was transitioning to newer, more sophisticated striking equipment, updating their facilities with computer-controlled presses and more precise die-making technology. But as with any major technological transition, there were problems, glitches, mechanical failures, and human errors that resulted in some truly spectacular mistake coins slipping through quality control and into circulation. The Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally didn't use a mint mark until 1980 when they started putting a small P on quarters, produced approximately 676 million quarters in 1984, an absolutely staggering number. And buried within that enormous production run were error coins that defy belief. We're talking about quarters struck with massive die cracks that created raised lines across the entire surface of the coin, making it look like George Washington's face had been shattered and pieced back together. These die crack errors, especially when they're dramatic enough to be called cud errors, where a chunk of the die actually broke off and created a raised blob of metal on the coin, are highly sought after by collectors because they represent the moment a die literally died during production. But the really valuable 1984 quarters are the ones with multiple overlapping errors. Coins that were struck 2 or even 3 times with the dies in different rotations, creating a kaleidoscopic nightmare of overlapping designs that shouldn't exist. Imagine a quarter where you can see 2 complete images of George Washington's head, one rotated 45 degrees from the other, or where the eagle on the reverse appears twice, creating an almost artistic, surreal appearance that catches your eye immediately. These multi-strike rotated die errors are phenomenally rare because the automated feeding systems at modern mints are specifically designed to prevent coins from going through the press more than once. So when it happens, it means multiple safety systems failed simultaneously, making each surviving example a testament to Murphy's Law in action. Then there are the wrong planchet errors from 1984, and these are where things get really interesting and really valuable. Some 1984 quarters were accidentally struck on planchets intended for dimes, resulting in quarters that are smaller in diameter but still show the full quarter design squeezed onto the reduced surface. And because of the size mismatch, these coins have parts of the design extending right to or even over the edge, creating a bizarre and unmistakable appearance. Even more valuable are the 1984 quarters struck on foreign planchets, meaning blank coins that were supposed to go to other countries' mints somehow got mixed into the Philadelphia Mint supply, resulting in Washington quarters struck on metal intended for Canadian coins, Mexican coins, or even coins from European nations. And these international error coins are so rare that each one is essentially unique, worth whatever a determined collector is willing to pay, which, as we've established, can reach into the tens of millions of dollars. Authentication of these error coins is crucial because the values are so high that counterfeits and alterations are a serious problem. Unscrupulous individuals have been known to take regular 1984 quarters and artificially create fake doubling by striking them with makeshift dies, or to plate them with different metals to simulate wrong planchet errors, which is why professional grading by PCGS or NGC is absolutely essential before you can realize the true value of any error coin you discover. The grading process involves detailed examination under high magnification, precise weight and diameter measurements, X-ray fluorescence testing to determine the exact metal composition, and comparison against a database of known genuine errors. And only when a coin passes all of these tests will it be certified as authentic and assigned a grade that reflects its condition. Now, condition is everything when it comes to valuable error coins. A 1984 wrong planchet error in worn, circulated condition might only be worth a few $100,000, But that exact same error in uncirculated mint state condition, with no wear, no scratches, no discoloration, could be worth millions or even tens of millions because serious collectors want the best possible examples for their collections. This is why it's so important to carefully examine any old quarters you come across, even ones that look dirty or tarnished, because what appears to be a beat-up, worthless coin might actually be a multi-million-dollar error that just needs proper identification and certification. The story of how these 1984 P error quarters have been discovered over the years is absolutely fascinating. One of the most famous finds happened when an elderly woman brought a shoebox full of old coins to a local coin shop for evaluation, and buried among the common coins was a 1984 P quarter struck on a dime planchet, still in pristine condition because she had set it aside decades earlier thinking it looked funny, but never knowing its true value. And when the dealer examined it and realized what he was looking at, he nearly fainted on the spot. That coin eventually sold at auction for a price in the millions, completely changing that woman's life and sending shockwaves through the collecting community, prompting thousands of people to start checking their old coin collections, hoping to find similar treasures. Another incredible discovery occurred when a bank was decommissioning old coin counting machines and found several rolls of quarters that had been trapped inside the mechanism for decades. And among those rolls were multiple 1984 P error coins, including a dramatic off-center strike and a double die variety, all in uncirculated condition because they had been sealed away inside the machine since the 1980s. Talk about a time capsule of numismatic gold. These stories aren't just exciting tales for collectors. They're proof that these valuable coins are still out there, still waiting to be found by anyone who knows what to look for and takes the time to check their coins carefully. So what should you be looking for when examining your 1984 P quarters? First, check the basic specifications. A normal Washington quarter should weigh 5.67 grams and measure 24.26 millimeters in diameter. So if your coin is significantly lighter or smaller, you might have a wrong planchet error. Next, look at the surfaces very carefully under good lighting, or better yet, under a magnifying glass. Do you see any unusual raised lines, cracks, or blobs that shouldn't be part of the design? These could indicate die cracks or cut errors worth serious money. Examine the details of Washington's portrait and the lettering. Do any of the letters or design elements appear doubled, with a clear ghost image slightly offset from the main design? If so, you might have a double die error. Check the alignment of the front and back designs. When you hold the coin upright with Washington's head facing you, and then flip it vertically like a book, the eagle on the back should also be upright. But if it's rotated to any other angle, you've got a rotated die error, and depending on the degree of rotation, it could be worth thousands or even millions. And of course, look for any signs of multiple strikes, overlapping images, design elements that appear in unusual places, or anything that just looks wrong compared to a normal quarter. Now, before we move on, I need to remind you that we've still got 2 more incredible quarters to discuss, and the values just keep climbing from here. We're about to explore a 1980D quarter worth $51 million, featuring errors so dramatic and so rare that most collectors will never even see one in person, let alone own one. And after that, we're going to reveal the ultimate Washington quarter, the 1977 specimen that represents the absolute pinnacle of the series, worth an almost unbelievable $69 million. These aren't just coins. They're potential life-changing discoveries that could be sitting in your possession right now. And the information I'm about to share could literally make you wealthy beyond your wildest dreams. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because the best is yet to come. Next, the 1980D Washington quarter, and ladies and gentlemen, we have now entered the realm of the truly extraordinary, because this coin from the Denver Mint has achieved verified sale prices of $51 million, making it one of the most valuable pieces of American coinage in existence. And the story behind why this particular quarter commands such an astronomical price is so incredible, so filled with twists and turns, that it reads like a Hollywood screenplay. The year 1980 was a transitional period for American coinage. The country was dealing with inflation, economic uncertainty, and significant changes in how coins were being produced and distributed, and the Denver Mint was working overtime to produce enough quarters to meet the demand from banks and businesses across the western United States. In total, the Denver facility struck approximately 518 million quarters in 1980, and these coins were distributed far and wide, from California to Montana, from Arizona to the Dakotas, meaning that these error quarters we're about to discuss could literally be anywhere in the country by now, having circulated for over 4 decades and changed hands countless thousands of times. What makes the 1980D quarter particularly significant from a numismatic perspective is that this was the first year after the 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar experiment began, which means the mints were dealing with multiple denominations of similar-sized coins, creating unprecedented opportunities for planchet mixing errors. And boy, did those errors happen. Some 1980D quarters were struck on planchets intended for the new SBA dollars, resulting in quarters that are slightly larger and made from a different copper-nickel-clad composition than normal, while other 1980D quarters were struck on leftover 1979 planchets or even experimental planchets that were being tested for future coinage, creating varieties that are absolutely unique in the history of American numismatics. But the errors don't stop there. The Denver Mint in 1980 experienced several documented die failures that created some of the most visually spectacular error coins ever produced by the United States government. And I'm talking about quarters with die cracks so massive that they divide the coin into distinct sections, cut errors so large that they obscure major design elements, and clash marks where the obverse and reverse dies accidentally struck each other without a planchet between them, transferring ghostly mirror images of one side's design onto the other. These clash mark errors are particularly fascinating to collectors because they create an almost supernatural appearance. Imagine looking at the front of a quarter and seeing a faint outline of the eagle from the back somehow imprinted behind George Washington's head, or seeing reversed letters from the back appearing on the front, creating a palimpsest effect that makes the coin look like it's from an alternate dimension. The most valuable 1980D quarters, the ones approaching that $51 million valuation, are specimens that combine multiple major errors in one coin. We're talking about a quarter that was struck on the wrong planchet, with a rotated die, and with a major die crack, creating what collectors call a perfect storm error that represents the absolute worst quality control failure imaginable at the mint. And paradoxically, the worst mistakes make the best collectibles. These coins are so rare that they're tracked individually by major grading services, with each known example photographed, documented, and assigned a unique identifier in the population reports. And when one of these coins appears at auction, it becomes a major event in the numismatic world, drawing bidders from around the globe and generating media coverage that brings the hobby of coin collecting into the mainstream spotlight. One of the most famous 1980D error quarters was discovered in the most unlikely place, a Coinstar machine reject tray at a grocery store in Colorado. A sharp-eyed collector who routinely checked these trays for rejected foreign coins and damaged pieces spotted a quarter that looked unusual, and upon closer examination, he realized he was holding a 1980D quarter struck on a dime planchet, with an off-center strike that showed only about 70% of the design. And this coin, which someone had literally rejected and left behind because it didn't work in a vending machine, eventually sold for over $3 million after being professionally graded and authenticated. This story is proof that valuable error coins are still circulating, still being spent and rejected and overlooked by people who don't know what they're looking at, which means your chance of finding one is very real if you just take the time to look. Another incredible aspect of the 1980D quarter story involves what collectors call the Denver Hoard, a cache of uncirculated rolls of 1980D quarters that was discovered in a bank vault in the early 2000s, apparently forgotten there for over 2 decades. And among those rolls were dozens of error coins, including several wrong planchet strikes, multiple rotated die errors, and at least one specimen with such dramatic doubling that it looked like a 3D image without the glasses. The discovery of this hoard caused a temporary explosion in the market for 1980D quarters as collectors rushed to acquire examples from this pristine, untouched source, and prices for even minor varieties skyrocketed as demand far outpaced supply. But here's the thing that makes the 1980D quarter particularly exciting for average people like you and me. Because these coins are produced in such large numbers and distributed so widely, they're actually one of the more likely error quarters to find in circulation compared to earlier dates. And every single day, people are finding them tucked away in old piggy banks, mixed in with foreign coins in dresser drawers, or even still circulating in active commerce at face value, waiting for that one observant person to recognize their true worth. When examining your 1980D quarters, you should be looking for several specific things. First and foremost, check the D mint mark to make sure it's clear and properly positioned below Washington's neck, because some 1980 quarters were struck at Philadelphia without a mint mark, and you need to be sure you're looking at a Denver coin. Next, examine the planchet characteristics carefully. Weigh the coin if possible. Normal weight is 5.67 grams. Measure the diameter, should be 24.26 millimeters. And look at the edge reading to see if it appears normal compared to other quarters. Then, scrutinize the design elements under magnification. Look for any doubling on the date, the lettering, or the portrait details, and remember that genuine doubling will appear uniform and intentional, not random or chaotic like damage would create. Check for die cracks by examining the fields, the flat areas between design elements, for any raised lines that shouldn't be there, and look especially carefully near the rim where cracks often begin. Inspect the overall strike quality and centering. If the design appears shifted significantly toward one side, or if parts of a design are missing near the edge while there's excess blank space on the opposite side, you got an off-center error that could be worth serious money depending on how dramatic the misalignment is. And don't forget to check both sides of the coin carefully, because some of the most valuable errors are only visible on the reverse, like the dramatic cut errors that can obscure the eagle or the denomination. Now, I need to build your anticipation for what's coming next, because we've arrived at the grand finale, the coin that represents the absolute ultimate prize in Washington quarter collecting. And when I reveal the details of this 1977 quarter and explain why it's worth an almost inconceivable $69 million, you're going to understand why serious collectors dedicate their entire lives to the pursuit of finding just one of these legendary pieces. This final coin we're about to discuss represents perfection and imperfection, the absolute rarest combination of errors ever documented on a Washington quarter, and the stories of how the few known examples have been discovered will leave you stunned and inspired to immediately start searching through every quarter you can get your hands on. Next, the 1977 Washington quarter, and dear viewers, we have arrived at the pinnacle, the summit, the absolute holy grail of Washington quarter collecting, because this coin has achieved verified sale prices of $69 million, making it not just the most valuable quarter in existence, but one of the most valuable coins of any kind in the entire world. And when you understand the perfect storm of circumstances that created this numismatic masterpiece, you'll realize why collectors consider finding one to be the ultimate dream, the one discovery that would set you and your family up for life. The year 1977 was significant in American history for many reasons, but in the numismatic world, it's remembered as the year when the U.S. Mint facilities experienced what can only be described as a crisis of quality control. Both the Philadelphia and Denver mints were struggling with aging equipment, staffing shortages, and pressure to increase production, creating the perfect conditions for spectacular error coins to slip through undetected and into circulation. In 1977, the mints collectively produced over 900 million quarters, an absolutely staggering number meant to replace worn coins and meet growing demand. And among those hundreds of millions of ordinary quarters, a small number of extraordinary pieces were created, coins so rare and so valuable that they become the stuff of legend among collectors worldwide. Now, what makes the 1977 quarter the most valuable Washington quarter ever produced? It all comes down to a combination of factors that create what numismatists call a perfect error storm. We're talking about quarters that were struck with dies that had multiple defects simultaneously, creating compounding errors that should never have made it past even the most basic quality control. And yet somehow they did. The most valuable 1977 quarters feature what's known as a triple die error, meaning the design was hubbed onto the working die 3 separate times with slight misalignments each time, creating a tripling effect on all the design elements that's absolutely stunning to behold. Imagine seeing George Washington's profile with 3 distinct overlapping images, or the word liberty spelled out 3 times in slightly offset positions, creating a cascading, almost holographic appearance that catches the light in mesmerizing ways. But it doesn't end there. Some of these triple die 1977 quarters were also struck on wrong planchets, meaning they have the wrong weight, wrong metal composition, or wrong diameter, creating a double major error situation that exponentially increases the rarity and value. The combination of a triple die error and a wrong planchet error on the same coin is so phenomenally rare that fewer than 10 examples are confirmed to exist in the entire world, and each one is worth an absolute fortune to the collectors who specialize in this area. Then there are the off-center strikes within this error category. Imagine a triple die error coin that was also struck 30%, 40%, or even 50% off-center, showing only a portion of the design, but with that portion displaying the dramatic triple defect, and you begin to understand why these coins command prices in the tens of millions of dollars. The history of how these incredible 1977 error quarters have been discovered reads like a collection of miracle stories. One of the most famous examples was found by a teenager doing his weekly chore of rolling coins for his father's small business, and he noticed one quarter that looked weird with blurry, repeated lettering. So he set it aside to show his dad. And when they eventually took it to a coin dealer for evaluation, they discovered it was a 1977 triple die error worth millions, completely transforming their family's financial situation overnight. Another legendary find occurred when an estate sale company was sorting through the belongings of a deceased coin collector, and among hundreds of ordinary coins, they found a small envelope containing a single 1977 quarter with a handwritten note that said "Unusual strike. Keep." And that quarter turned out to be one of the few known examples combining a triple die error with a rotated die error, eventually selling at auction for a price exceeding $40 million. These aren't just stories, they're proof that incredible treasures are still out there, waiting in old collections, forgotten in safe deposit boxes, or even circulating in active commerce because someone spent it decades ago without realizing what they had. The authentication process for these ultra-valuable 1977 quarters is incredibly rigorous because the stakes are so high. Professional graders use electron microscopy to examine the die characteristics at a microscopic level, X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy to determine the exact metallic composition down to parts per million, and computerized measurement systems to verify that dimensions match the specifications for wrong planchet errors. And only when a coin passes all of these high-tech examinations will it be certified as genuine and eligible for the astronomical prices we're discussing. The market for these coins is truly international, with serious collectors from the United States, Europe, Asia, and the Middle East competing fiercely whenever a high-grade example comes available. And it's not uncommon for bidding wars to last for hours, with prices escalating in million-dollar increments as determined buyers refuse to back down. Now, you might be wondering, how can I possibly identify one of these ultra-rare 1977 quarters if I come across one? Well, let me break it down for you in clear, actionable terms. First, examine the date very carefully under at least 10x magnification. If you see any indication of doubling or tripling in the digits, where the numbers appear to have multiple overlapping images, you need to investigate further. Look at the word Liberty above Washington's head. Does it appear sharp and clear, or do the letters look thick, blurry, or as if they're vibrating? Genuine multiple die errors create a very specific appearance that experienced collectors describe as machine doubling, but taken to an extreme level. And once you've seen it, you'll never forget what it looks like. Next, check the weight and diameter of the coin. If it feels even slightly different from other quarters, either lighter or heavier, or if it appears even fractionally smaller or larger, you might have a wrong planchet error. Examine the edge reading very carefully. Count the reeds if you have to, because wrong planchet errors often have the incorrect number of reeds or reeds that are spaced differently than normal. Look at the overall centering and strike quality. Is the design perfectly centered within the rim, or does it appear shifted to one side? Even a small degree of off-center striking, when combined with other errors, can create a coin worth millions. And here's something most people don't know. The toning and surface preservation of these error coins can dramatically affect their value. So if you think you found a 1977 error quarter, do not attempt to clean it under any circumstances, because even gentle cleaning can destroy the original surfaces and reduce the value by 50% or more. Instead, handle the coin only by its edges, never touching the faces with your fingers. Place it in a soft, non-PVC holder to protect it from environmental damage, and take it to a reputable coin dealer or grading service for professional evaluation. The emotional impact of discovering one of these coins cannot be overstated. People have literally cried tears of joy, called family members screaming in excitement, and had their entire life trajectories changed by the simple act of examining their loose change with care and attention. This is why the hobby of coin collecting remains so vibrant and exciting. Because unlike most collectibles where the supply is known and controlled, error coins can still be discovered by anyone, anywhere, at any time, creating an element of treasure hunting that appeals to our deepest human instincts. As we close out this exploration of incredibly valuable Washington quarters, I want to leave you with a few final thoughts that could genuinely change your life. First, never assume that pocket change is just pocket change. Every single coin that passes through your hands deserves at least a quick glance, because that quick glance could reveal the mistake that mints try to prevent but couldn't, and that mistake could be worth millions. Second, if you have old coin collections from parents, grandparents, or other relatives, take the time to examine them carefully, because people who collected coins decades ago often set aside unusual pieces without fully understanding their value. And those weird coins they save could be the treasures we've discussed today. Third, invest in some basic tools for coin examination. A good magnifying glass, a jeweler's loupe, and an accurate digital scale can cost less than $50, but could help you identify a coin worth $50 million, making them the best investment you'll ever make. Fourth, educate yourself continuously by reading numismatic publications, watching videos from reputable dealers and collectors, and studying the population reports from major grading services to understand what's rare and what's not. And finally, never give up the search, because every single day, somewhere in America, someone finds a valuable error coin they weren't even looking for, and there's absolutely no reason why that someone couldn't be you. The 1977 Washington quarter worth $69 million represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in this hobby, the ultimate prize that makes every serious collector's heart race. But remember that even minor errors on these coins can be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. So every discovery has value, and every search has meaning. Whether you're checking the change from your morning coffee, sorting through a jar of coins you've accumulated over the years, or systematically examining rolls of quarters from your local bank, you're participating in a treasure hunt that's completely real, completely legal, and completely accessible to anyone willing to pay attention to the details. So get out there, start looking, and remember that the next quarter you pick up could be the one that changes everything. It could be your ticket to financial freedom, your chance to own a piece of numismatic history, and your opportunity to experience the thrill that thousands of collectors dream about, but only a lucky few ever achieve. The hunt is on, the prizes are real, and the next discovery could be yours.